and it's not going to occupy. So they're living in cities. And the Arabia Peninsula, the same story, all these young people with nothing to do, and they're given money by the rich, because otherwise there's going to be a revolution.
Where in Nigeria did you go? You said it was in 1980.
Lagos, and up to Karuna.
Kaduna.
Yes, Kaduna.
No. Yeah.
Up semi-desert. These guys had a water well they were putting in, and they had some problems with it. I mean, the crazy thing was that everything was broken down, and you went in the shops, and there was nothing. A rope.
But 1980 was part of the glory times, towards the end of the glorious.
It all ended up in London in suitcases full of dirty money.
Yeah.
And I know this from a doctor that I knew in Monaco. This guy made fortunes as an abortionist in the 60s. He's a very gifted surgeon from Cambridge.
So that you guys were aiding and abetting the crooks from Nigeria.
Listen, no, that's exactly it. Mike said to me that he knew, the bank BCCI.
When it went bust, yeah.
Right. So
Bank of Credit and Commerce International.
Total fraud from Pakistan. These guys could operate that bank in the 60s and 70s using for £5 a deposit taker's license, which you could buy. So people would go in with suitcases of money upstairs above some travel agency in Harleston, and it would be put into deposit. They would. They still do
this till today.
They take the money, and they had to put it, because there was a deposit taker. It had to go into National Westminster Bank. They had to have a real bank behind it. So this sort of fraud went on endlessly.
Yeah. But why? You see, I'm not blaming you alone. I blame us
it's
first.
It's a nation of shopkeepers here. They're always open to do business. That's why the French, the Germans, they never attracted. Follow the money. It comes here because they want it here, and it's dirty. The French and the Germans won't have a bar of it.
But don't you think this problem the chicken has come home to roost now? Because if everything was good in Nigeria, I wouldn't be back here.
A flat.
And a lot of
was from Nigeria. Yeah. His wife was teaching school, and he would send them computers and stuff for the kids. Of course they wouldn't. People, why would you come here for the beer and the sun?
Exactly. But this is why, when I think about it, I also think for people that are knowledgeable, because the British, you guys were the first. Well, not quite. The Greeks were.
Yes.
Western education began in Greece with the Greek philosophers. But you guys played a very, very, should I say, you kicked yourself in the foot with the way the system works. Because it's now backfired, and then now the chicken has come home to roost.
Yes.
In America, you can see the craziness happening there.
They're totally degenerate. But that's everything. Look, I predicted this disaster this year. If you go back 100 years, you had the First World War, and you had the massive Spanish flu. Go back 100 years before this, Napoleon. Go back 100 years before that, and you had Marlborough and the end of Louis XIV, and endless plagues and all sorts of, every 100 years. But the Americans, their empire ended at the end of the Second World War when they
it started.
Manufacturing.
It started. Their empire started.
Yes,
because they conquered. They helped the UK, the British. Churchill conquer the Germans.
Oh yes, but the empire, their manufacturing empire, ended with the jet engine.
Yes.
With the piston engine, the engineering behind all this, the manufacturing. Everything went to a rust belt. I was there in the 70s. It was all falling to bits. Everything they made was rubbish. And people wouldn't buy American. They were buying Japanese, but they had to get over that big hang-up about racism in Japan.
Yeah.
But it was
those were the days the Americans called Japanese good inferior goods.
Yes, and now they can't live without it. And the Chinese, because if you don't manufacture, you are ultimately nothing. Look, the stock market in America goes up because they just want to make money and sell out before the whole lot falls to bits. They don't care. It's got no underlying reality.
Yeah.
When you've got Apple, that had more value than the entire European stock markets,
Yes,
that has to tell you something.
yeah, that is crazy.
Well, it is crazy. Look, we mustn't get ulcers out of this. But,
No, 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 no.
no, but
It's
it's all going to be. Look, I did 23andMe. You know, the DNA testing.
yes,
Ancestry and
yeah,
medical.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if you've done it
No,
or not.
yeah, go on.
No, it's very important. I found I have black cousins. There's about 3 or
You
4. Oh,
you're
yes.
kidding me.
No, no, I'm not kidding. Look, you can laugh, but
Let me tell you something. Do
yeah.
you know Queen Victoria?
Yes.
Right. She has black cousins in Nigeria. I'll tell you their name, the Randalls.
I see.
And you would also, if you go and look for this woman, but what's her name again? She was a daughter of a king,
Yes.
and they named her after a ship. I've forgotten her name now.
Okay.
But if you Google it, you'll find her.
Yes.
She's
Well, if
there.
you look under Queen Victoria's African cousins,
Exactly.
something will come up,
They will come up,
Good.
and you'll be, and they're from Nigeria,
Yeah.
and the Randalls in
Yes.
particular.
So, but this is another crazy thing. That there's 25% of black American men have white cousins in Europe. 25%.
That is huge.
Yes.
But they will silence it. It
Of
wouldn't be
course,
brought up.
no, it isn't. But my black cousin told me this.
You've met your
Oh,
cousin?
no, I haven't. We were on the internet.
Oh, you were chatting.
I email her, all
Okay,
the time.
okay.
No, she's about. I've got her. You see, we can do our ancestry thing and
Yeah.
the makeup and everything. So her line starts in the 1850s or 60s. Somebody from up in Northampton, you see,
Yeah.
it's, one of our relatives from up there, went to the States.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where, but she is 30% white. Oh yes, but then her mix of Africa is.
How did you measure the percentage?
Because listen, you have to do this. It's 110 or 15 pounds or something. 23andMe.
Okay.
It's very important.
It's online. 23andMe.
It's actually run by the wife of one of the guys that does Google.
Okay.
And they have huge computing power. They do huge medical research because you can go through, if you opt for medical, it's very important.
Right.
You're going to see all sorts of weird things. Yes, you're prone to have wet earwax or this or that. And you can give all sorts of answers to questions. It's very important because with those answers and your DNA, they are finding weird connections. Now, at a certain time, they're going to tell you, well, this is what we found about you. But you have to sign off here that you understand what you know you can't unknow. So if you suddenly
once you are in it, that's it.
That's it. Once
No
you've
stepping
understood
back.
that you could have a propensity for Alzheimer's, you can't unknow this. And there's some other weird, horrible diseases, things that are transmitted. That's the big deal.
Right.
And people say, well, why do I want to know this if I'm 20? Yeah, I think I'd want to know. Why would I buy an insurance policy and waste the money when I can enjoy it?
Exactly. You see, that is a smart way to think. You know, I was speaking.
It's without fear. You've got to be without fear of the future, and people are afraid.
And that fear is what people milk.
Of course.
Look at this COVID, for instance.
This is the politician. This is what's happened just blatantly in African leaders selling their country out and literally selling them as slaves.
Yeah, and you're correct. And the focus is on you guys. Oh, the white man came.
The buyer,
not the seller. Thank you.
Yeah, but look,
both of them are criminals.
Back, and then you say this to somebody, but this is human nature. Why do you want to keep going against nature? What happens in a tribe? You go back to the tribe, and then you go to the family, and it's family first, then the tribe. Someone takes over the tribe.
Yeah.
And he's going to give it to this cousin, and that son and daughter, and it's going to be the same old story because they know as soon as they're weak, they're gone.
You know what I said to a friend of mine once? I said, this slavery thing, it could only have been us being the slave and you guys being the masters. I said because we are the worst to ourselves. We lie all the time, not only to you, but to ourselves.
Zimbabwe, they got rid of this crazy old man and his clique, and the same crew are looting it.
Yeah.
It's never going to stop.
Are you talking about Mugabe? Yeah.
Yes. Look, you see the crazy.
Well, don't you think the British set up all these countries to fail?
No, they failed because of human nature. Whether it was British and they're incompetent.
No. But in
or,
Nigeria, let's
yeah,
let's look at Nigeria.
yes, I know,
Frankly,
massive wealth, and people can't even get food. The oil, it's all in Switzerland, and it's all been in London real estate.
yeah,
That's where it is.
that's it.
Collecting rent.
Yeah.
But it was never meant to be anything
But
else.
I foresee a change pretty soon.
Well, it will. There's so many people, but someone will manipulate an explosion.
Mhm.
This COVID is the greatest disaster. It should be hundreds of millions dying and very little damage. Here we're getting massive economic damage. That's all wars do now: economic damage and no death.
Yeah.
You see, it's totally the
I
opposite.
think COVID is a turning point because
is.
it's kind of shifted business as usual.
Yes, of
It's things are going to change. Business to change. People don't need to go to offices.
That's it.
That-
That's the killer.
That's a killer.
That's the real estate. That every real estate is a wasting asset.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It literally needs maintenance. It's not like it's going to grow something or a factory producing something out of nothing.
Yeah.
So they put billions into this real estate in the city,
Right.
and the leases will run out and say, thanks guys, we don't need any of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the end of it. All this chain then falls to bits. The income that insurance company expected out of owning a building is not going to be there. So they won't be able to pay the people that have insurance policies. Pension funds, forget it. And they are really screwed because, of course, they've gone into something secure, but it's all fallen to bits. No, look, it's all too terrifying. But listen, my cousin over there, she's got a son about 16, 17. I really fear for them. It's a crazy place. She's in Phoenix, Arizona. She's a teacher. And
what about the
very
elections
dangerous.
coming up this November? What do you think is likely to happen?
Who knows? If Trump gets back in, even if he doesn't get back in, there could be a civil war. This man's crazy enough.
He's wrecked.
And a lot of people are crazy with him.
Yeah.
It's like Germany. Don't say they knew what this man was. They were gangsters that were
Yes.
there and psychos.
Yes.
Right. A lot of people were simply forced to do it because they would have been executed straight away.
Yeah.
They're not quite as mad. But there's psychos with guns. This is the thing. There's an outright civil war. The worst in a sense is that the military, the chiefs of staff, are very worried about
They are, because he's tried to
He would start a
divide.
war.
Yeah.
He would start a war somewhere else to make publicity.
Exactly.
Do you know he spent almost $1 billion over the last 2 or 3 years to get re-elected? $1 billion.
Yeah.
We've never had any end to this bloody Trump
He-
on the television.
He has alienated his allies all around the
But
world.
they know he's a complete psycho.
Yeah. This country, I mean, they don't like
Russia,
him.
even if they didn't manipulate the whole thing in 16, they couldn't be happier because with them, they just want to get rid of the Federal Reserve and the dollar. It's the dollar they don't want because they can't run rackets.
Yeah.
It's all going through New York. The banks control everything. They can't play Maryhill, and all commodities are in dollars. And even now, they're always talking about getting out of the dollar and trading them in euros.
Right.
Or something like this, but the euros never become big enough as that when they set it up, they hope they could bounce it back, but the dollar is just wildly too large. But it's the same as the pound sterling going down the tubes after the First World War. It was no longer a reserve currency.
Yeah.
And it was just falling to bits. You know, that's the thing. It's all down to the dollar.
Yeah.
And the only way to get rid of it is to destroy America. Anyway, look, it's wonderful to meet you.
Same here. Same here.
And I will certainly find your channel. You're on.
If you go onto YouTube,
Yes.
my first name is Ahmed, Ahmed,
Yeah, okay.
and my surname is Oscar Delta Uniform Yankee Echo, Oduye.
Okay.
And if you type that in,
Yes.
you will see my
you'll
videos.
Hit the gold mine.
Thank
So,
you, a pleasure.
Yes, and good health.
And you too.
I'm sorry that this is going to be a very bad end. The whole lot.
Well,
You know.
it's not as gloomy as that, I can assure you.
At least we're out here and they're working.
Exactly. Goodbye. A pleasure. Thank you. Yeah.